610 WTVN.
Want to say good morning to Cheri Perry. Cheri is a business strategist, and Cheri, little birdie tells me that you just celebrated your 30th wedding anniversary over the weekend, so congratulations.
Hey, thank you, and good morning.
Yeah, did your husband take care of you, I hope, or can I ask?
Oh, you can, and he did, so yes.
How do you do that in the pandemic? I mean, a lot of people, would normally hey, go out to dinner, maybe a little long weekend, something like that. With the pandemic on, how do you celebrate a big anniversary like that?
Well, what we did is we are looking for some lake property, so we spent a good percentage of that weekend driving around and just really enjoying each other in the vehicle, and so we had a great time. It was very, very fun, and he also made a nice purchase prior to the pandemic, so I got a little extra something, so it was good.
He was a planner. He was ready for it. Good for him. And good for you. That's great stuff. So, again, congratulations on that. Brilliant. Now, your wheelhouse as a business strategist sees statistics pretty much every day that about half of U.S. workers are doing their jobs from home because of stay-at-home orders. So in your perspective, is this good or bad for productivity? Do you get a sense that bosses are really kind of having to keep their thumb right on their workers to make sure that the job's getting done?
Man, that's a great question. I do feel that if you are a boss that feels like you have to keep your thumb way down on your staff members, you probably need to get a little checkup from the neck up, as my friend Zig Ziglar used to say, and double check that. People want to perform. People want to be productive. And it's interesting where a lot of people now feel like, I've got this fresh opportunity to work from home, and I can impress my boss. And so I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm sure there's some on the other side of that coin as well. But this is a really great opportunity for both sides of this equation to really step up their game.
Yeah. So is it about how many hours I'm spending working? I mean, I see these reports that people, are maybe more productive because it's like, well, hey, I don't have the commute anymore. I'm used to getting up at 6:30. So instead of, sitting down at the office at 8, I get up, I walk right down to the laptop, and I'm maybe online working by that 6:45.
Well, I love the question, do I think it's about the number of hours? I don't. I think that in America, regardless of how we think we get paid for the value that we bring to the hour, not the hour. So one of the things that a good staff member will do is make sure that they are being as productive as possible and getting that done, whenever they can in an efficient, effective manner. One of the great things a manager can do is wrap themselves around the fact that what gets done is more important than, counting every keystroke or watching, to see if the eyeballs are on the screen for a certain amount of time.
Yeah. Well, and see, it's interesting to me, too. I know depending on the office and the environment and that, and I mean, people, we shop online all the time and all that, and people do that from work. But it's interesting to me, Cheri, because, if I'm at home, but I'm working, when I'm working, am I always on the clock? Or is it like, as long as I'm getting my job done, if I want to sprinkle my own stuff in, while I'm working, that's okay. Because if the boss has software, he can kind of keep an eye on your computer. I mean, there's a little privacy concern there. There's a little like, hey, I got to do a little banking, or I want to do a little shopping, or maybe some extracurricular stuff that maybe I don't want my workmates to know I do. So how do you keep that separate?
Well, it's difficult to keep separate, but one of the things that people can really think about is even before COVID, even before half of our workforce was at home, there was about a 30% level of disengagement at the job. So these kinds of things were already happening at the work. And if you think they're not happening, well, you probably got to open your eyes up a little bit.
Right.
People are going to meander. They are going to visit a website. They are going to visit social media. And you can either, get irritated and frustrated by it, or you can say, all right, what do I need to get done? What am I paying for here? And make sure that you have some clear guidelines with your team members that this is the stuff that we need to get done. If people feel like they're being babysat or monitored or surveilled while they're at their home, I have got to believe that that has a deeper impact in a negative way than having an open line of communication with your team.
So do you think a normal human resource department, would they have guidelines for this kind of thing? Or is this just so different from what we normally do that it's kind of like the Wild Wild West? It's like, hey, do what you do and we'll figure it out as we go.
Hey, weeks ago it was the Wild Wild West, but any company worth their salt right now should have some good parameters in place for people that are working from home. So, you have kids?
I do, yeah. I have a son.
Okay, cool. Did you ever take him bowling?
I have taken him bowling, yeah.
All right, so when you go bowling, one of the first things we do when our babies are little, I have a son also, by the way. I don't know what happened, but now he's like a man. He's 24.
It happens. It's a good thing.
Yeah, right.
It's a good thing.
But when we take them bowling, the first thing we do is we put bumpers in so that they don't get the gutter ball, right?
Right.
So that when we're teaching them how to do it, same thing with being at home and working from home, you've got to put some bumpers in and some parameters to say, okay, team, here's how we're successful. People aren't naturally going to be successful working from home if they don't do it all the time. We've got to help them.
Agreed. So if I'm working at home and I feel like my boss is maybe a little too involved, paying a little too much attention to what I'm doing, do I have any recourse?
Absolutely. I think your first recourse is something that we should all think about in America, and that's just go straight to your boss. I would literally just say, hey, listen, I feel like, is there a question? Do you have a question about how productive I'm being at home? And let's have a real, honest, open communication back and forth. Now, the larger the company, that may be more difficult. You may have to go to your direct supervisor. But most companies, if they are doing any kind of surveillance or any of that, are definitely going to have that down in their HR book.
Yeah.
They're going to make sure that you know what's happening. That's the legal and the proper way to do it. But if you do feel like you're being overmanaged, you may just need to have a good conversation with somebody, because I can tell you this, I don't have to worry about my remote team members. They tell me all the time what they're doing. I don't even have to ask. So if you love working from home and you don't want to feel like somebody has to be checking on you every 5 minutes, tell them what you're doing.
Yeah, that's a great call. But see, that's the thing. I think a lot of people, Cheri, as you're sitting there with your laptop or your computer, I mean, the thing's got a microphone in it. The thing's got a camera in it. So if your boss has that kind of software, I mean, they can literally hear and see everything you're doing.
Yeah, they could. And so, you have to ask yourself the question, is this the kind of work environment I want to work in? And that is exactly what's going to happen, especially with so many remote workplace opportunities. That they're not going to go away because we get a handle on the virus. I think people are definitely going to see the benefit of working from home. So if you are in an environment where you feel like you do have a heavy-handed manager or someone, at least give them the common courtesy of talking to them about it. And then if you don't like the way they're doing it, do what you can do as an American and get another job.
Absolutely brilliant. Cheri, thank you very much for the visit and the perspective this morning. Cheri Perry, business strategist here on News Radio 610 WTVN.